compassion for their pain. Compassion means let them connect to their pain and their own feelings about what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Pseudo compassion is when you try to get them to forget about it. Oh, forget about it and think positive. No. When clients are with you, the compassionate thing to do is to have them work through all of the difficult, the sticky situations, the things that they get off their chest. I hear things from my clients that I know they've never told anybody. And that's a privilege of having that information. And I don't take it lightly. You know, I take it very seriously. The clients that I see, I'm just honored that they respect me and trust me enough to tell and to get all of this stuff off their chest that they've been holding around. You know, I've worked with men who are going through some really tragic things, and they'll be laughing with their families and carrying on, but then when they come into our sacred space, they're crying like a baby, you know. And I just feel so honored to be in that position. And so that's what I tell students, you know, when you are helping someone else who's in their problem, it's not about you. Put all your own issues to the side. That's why self-care is important, to make sure you do that. And I have a lot of self-care that I'm planning my own retreat. You know, I host retreats for people, but I'm planning my own one in December. I'll be up meditating in the mountains.
Love it.
You know, connecting to my higher power. And so that's important for me so that I can continue to go out and do the work that I'm doing for my clients.
Yeah, no, I love that. It taps into both of y'all's purpose and why you do what you do. And one thing Dr. Boyce alluded to was how, you know, with kids, mompreneur, sounds like you struggle with creating boundaries, right? And how did you, besides him being bodyguard at the front door and making sure you were able to rest, I know a lot of us as mompreneurs, we struggle with self-care, but you seem to have that on now. But take us back to when that was something that you were struggling with, and what did it look like? Why do you think you felt like you had to be so available?
Well, you know, I think all roads lead to COVID, right? Because before COVID, I was in the office. I was on campus just about every day of the week, 4 or 5 days a week. I was on campus. Now I've actually, I have my own office here. I had my own private practice. And honestly, in reflecting on it, I was talking to Boyce recently about it. I'm like, it's actually easier to be a mompreneur than it is to be an employee. You know, the hours are very flexible. Yeah, the hours are extremely flexible. There's certain times of the day I'm not going to book clients because I know I have to get my kids to school and they get off the bus, and I want them. As a therapist, I know I want to be the very first person that they come in contact with when they come into the house, because I want to be able to see how they're doing. Did they have a hard day at school? Sometimes they come home and they're crying. They're teenagers. All sorts of things happen on the bus, at school, at lunch. You know, he said, she said, and I want to be there for them to give to my children, you know, what I'm giving to everybody else, a listening ear. And I think it's great. And I've gotten to the point in my university where I have, you know, I'm a full professor. You know, I have a lot of, I guess status and flexibility. So I have some control over my time at the university. Now, because of COVID, I'm 100% teach online. So, you know, 2 days a week I'm online, and I can grade papers whenever I feel like it. So my time is very flexible, and I love it because I have children. I can't adhere to every beck and call of the kids. Like Boyce, thank you, Boyce, so much for protecting my time. But there are things that are so important to them. I have one daughter who's in dance. You know, her dance is so important. She gets up on that stage. She's on the team. And I love to see, I do set aside time where I'm going to go to her performances and see her get up there and compete. I have another daughter who's in track and field. Those track and field meets are just way too long. I don't know anybody in track and field. kiss your day goodbye. So I try to do what I can to like be there for her in very important, meaningful ways. But the other stuff we farm out to people. I get somebody to do my laundry. I get someone to, sometimes we usually get someone to drive them back and forth, to practices and things like that. So thank you, Boyce. I have that, I'm afforded the privilege, and the kids are privileged. They got a whole lot of things that I didn't have growing up, but I'm honored to be able to give them that.
I love it. I love it. So we're still here. Remember, okay. It'll go we'll edit it out. Sounds good. I don't know. We're still here. So you guys work so well, it seems, as a couple. In business, you are what I call lovepreneurs, right? You work together. And so sometimes as a mompreneur, you're doing it by yourself. Your spouse is not at all involved in the business, or they can be one foot in the business like mine is. He's a little bit in the business. But tell us about y'all's journey. I know you guys met as entrepreneurs, but how you kind of blended the life together and kind of had to navigate having another spouse who is an entrepreneur and then working together as closely as y'all do.
Well, I'll say this. We spend a lot of time together, but I wouldn't say we work together all the time. And I don't know how, my wife can speak for herself, but I can definitely tell you that in terms of here's one thing I'll say. I was thinking about our community and some of the chaos that I see maybe online when people talk about relationships, and there's kind of a perception, especially if you look at the data. My wife may agree or disagree, I'm not sure, but that there are challenges when it comes to maintaining things like marriage and family, and I think that that's a critical challenge that we have to address because it's going to be impossible for us to do this whole wealth thing if we're not working together. And so one thing that I will conclude for sure, and I've said this to people, is that I think the biggest mistake you can do is let other people make the rules for you. Like if you are watching your favorite internet influencer who is probably some single man sitting in his mama's basement telling you how to deal with your woman or your wife or whatever, your life will be as pathetic as his. Or if you listen to some bitter woman who never healed, who's telling you why everything is somebody else's fault but yours, you're going to end up as lonely as she is. And so one of the rules that I have is that I don't let other people make my rules in terms of how I negotiate things with my wife. So for example, I submit to my wife a lot. She submits to me a lot. We submit to the relationship a lot. We submit to the kids sometimes. I submit to my goals a lot. And it requires me to also have times where I say, I'm not submitting to anything right now. I'm focused on something else right now. So, people have different personality types. So I am an introvert. My wife is more of a socialized extrovert. She feeds off social energy. Sometimes it drains me, when I go places and I'm shaking a lot of hands and signing a lot of books. I go in my room and I have to go in my room and just turn the lights out and meditate and just focus, because it's very draining for me. Even though I love it, it's very exhausting. So sometimes I just go in my office, shut the door, and lock it. And I was like, no, I'm in here because I got to be in my bag, in my zone. Like Tupac in the studio or something. Like I got to let my gift come out. And it's not going to always come out if I'm being interrupted every 2 minutes. Right. And is that weird for some people? Yeah, it probably is, but I don't care. It's like, I just believe overall, and that you have to figure out what's going to give you your peace, but you also have to understand that when you're pursuing your peace, if you've made some sort of agreement and alignment with other people that you're going to do this thing together, whether you're talking about a basketball team, a marriage, a business, any form of partnership, a government, anything, you always have to understand that there's something in that space that's more important than just you and what you want all the time. If you want to be solo in everything that you do and every decision you make, then be solo. Be lonely, be an island. And I guarantee you that you won't accomplish nearly as much as people who are working together. So So my wife can answer in her perspective of kind of how that works, but it's a negotiating process. There's a lot of conversation around that. There's a lot of getting to know each other. Like, oh, well, when you did that, that made me think you didn't even want to talk to me, and whatever. And it's like, no, I wasn't trying to be rude. I just don't want to be bothered by nobody. So I think it's kind of it is a process. So I would not say that any couple that wants to work on a business together should feel like there's any sort of way that you have to do it. You may do it in a way where you say, you know what, I go to my business so I can spend some time by myself. Or you could say, being in my business gives me more time to spend with you, and you want to spend time with me. And I've seen couples like that that spend 95% of their time together. That ain't us. That ain't us. But go ahead, please.
Yes. You are so funny. He always tells me, oh, I'm so happy. Our offices are right across from each other. So my office is open, like an open book. And Boyce is all bolted inside his office. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I like you being close by though. I do. I don't want you.
He really does.
Yeah, I like because it honestly, if it stems, I think that we're just kind of grown up versions of little children, and what I visualize is like how you might have a little boy who wants to sit in his room and play with his trucks, but his mama's in the kitchen and he just likes to run in there and grab a cookie and give his mama a hug and get back to playing with his trucks. But he don't want his mama. He may not want his mama in there playing with the trucks with him and his
son does. Give him a hug and he going again.
Yeah, they're back to work, mama. Gotta go back to work. Yeah, like that. I don't know. Y'all analyze that, but that's what I see.
Oh my God. Yeah, I really do. I do feel that. But I think like Boyce, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like Boyce and I is really organic. I don't think Boyce and I ever sat down and said, I don't think I've ever had a strategy meeting with Boyce about what we're going to do and how we're going to work together. It all was very organic. He was like, oh, I'm talking about this. Come on and talk about it. And so I'm like, okay. And I click on, and I have to learn how to be, and I think this is probably just a skill that I just had or like an attribute of me. I just dive right in. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Sometimes it's clunky. Sometimes he's like, Alicia, you did it awful on this interview. And he'll say, Alicia, good job with this interview. He gives me feedback, not detailed feedback, but it's a transition for me. I'm a therapist and a college professor, and here I am on social media, something I never had done, something that he had been doing for the past 15, 16, 17, I don't know, all his life he's been, it seemed like, on social media. So it was just really organic, and I kept asking him questions about starting a business, because I didn't have my own business, until we got married, or we started dating. Actually, it was when we got married when I started it. And he was just, I kept asking him questions, and pretty soon he was like, I'm going to connect you with a business coach. I can tell you're serious. So he basically sponsored, all praises due to Boyce Watkins for helping me with my business. Yeah. And I launched my first online course on couples and communication called Drama Free Conversations. And that's how my business got started. I just turned the camera on. I had all this material, all this information, all this knowledge. And instead of teaching at a university, I was teaching it to my people. And so that is what propelled me to my first big launch and then subsequent ones. And that's how I got started. Thank you, Boyce. If I haven't thanked you.
You're welcome. And let me say this too. When my wife and I were in Boston, we went up there to visit one of my buddies. He's a rapper named D1. He was up at Harvard doing a fellowship, and we were running, and my wife said that we were talking about her business, and I was really happy for her. I think we'd hit some milestone or something. I was like, way to go, good job. And she said, yeah, but I had an advantage because you helped me and you did this for me and that for me. And I said, yeah, well, that's the thing. And I said, well, yeah, but one thing I can tell you from my perspective is I've had other people that I have offered to help who didn't listen. I said, remember, you made the choice to be open to, because when we got together, my wife wasn't an entrepreneur. She had a regular kind of, not quite a 9-to-5. She was a professor. It's a good job, but she wanted something different, and I helped her with it. But I said, you had to be open to it. Some people don't even want to consider it, or because they're comfortable with their lifestyle, or maybe they don't want to be in the space of Black people. I said, so you were open to it. And also, when I told you what I thought would work, you got on it, you did it. And also remember this, when we got together, you chose to be with me. I said, maybe that, not every woman I've ever been interested in has always said, yeah, I want to go date that professor guy. Maybe they wanted to date some other guy who dressed nicer or had more swag. I ain't got no swag, like, my point is to say that it's like, well, I appreciate it. Well, and I have some things, but I don't think swag is one of them per se. However, it was like you made choices, right? Like it was there. But I can tell you there are other people who had the same everything kind of laid out and offered to them who just said no thank you, or I'm not interested, or maybe we had the conversation and they didn't follow through. And that leads to one of the I think if I was to give anybody sort of suggestions on ways to cope and work through in a healthy way the challenges of family and marriage, some words came to mind, some buzzwords that came to mind that really helped me a lot was one was like optimism and admiration. The two words actually. So optimism and admiration for my wife means that rather than looking at the things that she doesn't do right, I try to always make sure I focus first on all the things she does very well, right? So rather than saying my wife don't do this, my wife don't do that, I stop and I say no, wait a minute. First of all, my wife is fine as hell. Second of all, she can cook her butt off, and she got a nice booty to cook off, and so it's a lot of cooking required. Third of all, my wife is smart as hell. She's a professor. Only 1% of the population is a PhD. My wife is a full professor. Only less than 10% of all PhDs even become full professors. I admire her for that. Number 4, she is a workhorse. I mean, this lady. If I say, hey, let's get the workbook done by Friday, she'll have that sucker done on Wednesday. Now, she does not play. And so I'm like, you know what? Even when we get on each other's nerves, I respect the fact that she's just this awesome teammate, right? And that kind of allows me to kind of work through the areas where I might be like, well, she didn't do this, but I'll be like, yeah, but she did this, and this. And that optimism really helps. And I really do admire my wife. Like I know she's one of a kind. And then the other two words that came to mind were like empathy and patience. I think it does take a lot of patience, when you're dealing with other people. And I'm gonna tell you the truth, I guess I've been quote unquote kind of internet famous for a while, or infamous, however you want to look at it. And what can happen sometimes is you can get a little bit spoiled. Like you're around people who always say yes to you. Like, yes, Dr. Watkins, of course, Dr. Watkins, here, Dr. Watkins, and then when you're in a space where that ain't always going to be the answer, it requires you to be like, okay. You got steam coming out your ears, and you figure it out. You work through it. And my wife, her applying her therapy skills, because she's got to use them all, on me, because I'm heavily traumatized.
The whole gamut.
She got to pull out all the books to work through me. I think that patience and empathy, is something that we both have for each other, and those are the things that go through my mind in terms of saying, okay, let's rock this thing out. Let's not just succeed, but let's really see if we can succeed at the highest level possible. But I think that takes some intentionality.
I love it. The way y'all talk about each other is admirable in itself. I love it. And so any mompreneur, I mean, this is goals right here. I know you don't want to model your relationship, your business after anybody, but it is nice to see that there are couples out here that are very secure in their own right, having their business. They don't require each other to fulfill their goals, but they are better together than they ever could be separate, and they push each other. And so that's what you wanted, like you said, not just in relationships and marriage, but any relationship, partnership. Looking for someone like that to help you go further is definitely something that I would take away from that. So thank y'all. So I want to transition to my favorite part of the podcast. It's called the lightning round. I know you wanted to both kind of touch on modern and mompreneur, so this is your chance to do it, okay? I will ask you a question, and the first thing that comes to the top of your mind, you say it. So I'm going to ask you both, so you both can have a chance to say it, okay? So are you ready? All right. I will start with you, Dr. Alicia. What are 3 words to describe you today?
Today, people say I'm enthusiastic. I would like to think I'm compassionate. And I think I might be really determined. I don't know if determined is a good word, but like driven sounds a little like bitchy, but I'm not bitchy. But I would say probably compassionate, and very determined. I think determined is ambitious might be a good word to describe me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Boyce, 3 words to describe you today.
You mean right now today or just who I am in general?
Right in this moment.
Right in this moment?
Right,
Let's see, a little tired. Determined to maintain my standard for today. And happy.
All right.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, Dr. Alicia, what would you tell your 18-year-old self today? What would you tell her?
Oh, goodness. If I had to go back and talk to my 18-year-old self, I'd probably say, oh, you accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish.
All right.
Yeah, I know at 18, that was around the time I started thinking about what I wanted to be in life. And really, by the time I met Boyce, I was 19 years old when I met Boyce. And it was funny. I wanted to be a college professor. I wanted to be a therapist, and I wanted to be head over heels in love with a man that I was married to. And I accomplished that.
Wow.
Finally, at the age of 50.
So you met when you were 19, and this is so many years later?
Not Dr. Boyce. He was just regular Boyce Watkins.
Yeah, I was very far from being Dr. Boyce. I was beginning the journey to try to become Dr. Boyce, and it was hard as hell.
Full circle moment. Y'all came back. Okay, love it. All right, Dr. Boyce, your chance. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would tell my 18-year-old self, don't waste any time being unhappy. Go for what you want, and learn how to start a business. Be the best entrepreneur you could possibly be. If I could, I'm glad I have my degrees and everything, but if I put the same effort into just learning how to run a quality business that I put into getting all those degrees, I probably could have, made a lot more money a lot faster. I made money eventually, but I didn't really start making money till my 30s. Whereas I believe if I had just spent like a year grinding my butt off as learning the ins and outs of entrepreneurship and sales, I could have, been a millionaire by 22 years old, 21. So not that money's the most important thing in the world, but that's what I would change.
Okay, got it. So this question, I'm going to kick it back to you, Dr. Boyce, because you wanted to talk about this. But what does it mean when you hear modern mompreneur?
Well, I think the word modern can be good or bad depending on what that means for people, because it's like the word progressive. Some things that are progressive aren't progressive. Some stuff I want to go backwards with, but then some stuff we need to modernize, right? So when I think about modern mompreneur, or just I think I'm trying to process the word modern, how that fits in, but I will say that it would be a mom who, in my biased opinion, it would be a mom who is able to positively entangle the gift and value of motherhood with the opportunity and possibility of entrepreneurship. Because when I'm seeing a mompreneur, I'm seeing somebody who's bringing their son or their daughter to work, or into the family business. So I'm seeing the building of legacy. But then, because I am more of a traditionalist, I see the dadpreneur right there with the mompreneur. So I don't, I'm not, I'm not one that would say we want to aim for some of these other narratives that are out there about sort of being so focused on the money and the business that you don't build the healthy relationships or whatever. Because I can think of I think about mompreneurs I might have seen that maybe were sort of like some men do. You're just so caught up in being a great businesswoman that you weren't very good at anything else. You weren't a good parent, weren't a good spouse. I think, to me, mompreneur / dadpreneur would fit into understanding the holistic nature of what it means to have a complete existence. So that means that if I'm going to bust my ass running that business, I'm also going to bust my ass raising that child. I'm also going to bust my ass being a great spouse. I'm going to bust my ass being great for my community. That's the kind of mompreneur that I think benefits everybody. And I think we should cheer that on, and some of these old arcane ideas of like, I literally just today talked to a woman who's a great real estate agent, who's made millions of dollars. And she said her mother was just like her, but at that time, they would put so many limitations on what she was allowed to do that her greatness was never allowed to flourish. So her daughters kind of embodied that, and they went on and took over the world, where her mother should have had that opportunity as well. So I think I know that I will say this because I'm married to a mompreneur. I learned, again, because I don't believe in necessarily letting anybody else make the rules. I learned that you have to spend time studying what it means to be in a marriage with a high-powered woman, and it's not, it doesn't have to be emasculating or whatever, but it does require you to have a certain level of comfort with yourself. Maybe you call it maturity, whatever you call it. It requires the patience. It requires also understanding that it's not just always going to be about you, right? So sometimes, I know it's my job to sit back and really cheer her on. And honestly, in a public space, I'm going to tell you, I think the epitome of that, I don't know if it's completely healthy, is Will Smith, right? I see Will Smith. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that's an extreme though, because that stuff that's going on is a little bit crazy to me. But putting aside whatever Jada is doing, right? Like let's not even, I don't even critique that. But the way Will's kind of responding made me say, okay, go ahead, because he's still shining, he's still doing his thing. He launched his new podcast. He congratulated his wife. He shut off all the stupid comments on Instagram and still showed y'all why he's Will Smith and we ain't. And I said, go ahead, man. I was very proud of him when he did that, actually.
Okay. Love it. Yeah, I like that he's moving that way too.
Yeah.
What about you, Dr. Alicia? Modern mom.
We gotta process Will. We gotta process the Will and Jada thing.
We do. We do.
That's gonna be an episode coming up. I know it is.
Yep.
No, I mean, I really enjoy that you use the word modern mompreneur, and I think that it's learning from the past and taking some lessons from more traditional styles of operating, but I think modern is like current and with the times. Things are so much different now. Economic pressures are so much different now. Just our evolution and the way we think about gender roles and what it means to parent children. Parenting children right now is so much different. I mean, we have the age of social media. We have all of these different challenges that are unique, that's never been faced before. Economic challenges that's never happened before. I mean, you have to have a 2-parent income. I mean, long gone are the days where, it's a sole provider. And even in those relationships, we know that sometimes those women were miserable because they couldn't be who and what they wanted to be. They were boxed in and told that they need to just do these things. And so I think we've opened up the discussion where, like Boyce said, you negotiate how you want your marriage to run so that everybody feels fulfilled. Yeah, I'm taking on some of the household duties, but so is my spouse taking on household duties. We're giving it to the kids to take on with age appropriate. All of us are kind of in it together instead of it just resting on one person. So I get excited when I hear modern mompreneur, and I think it's where you are able to say, you know what, how things have happened in the past, that doesn't work anymore. I'm not doing the second shift, although that's what we're seeing in a lot of relationships, that a lot of women fall back on these traditional roles when it comes to being married, although in your mind, you're thinking, this is a modern marriage, I'm a modern woman, and then you're still taking on these traditional roles, and children are now seeing their mother struggle. And when they get older, they're like, you know what? I saw my mom work her butt to death. I'm not going to do that with my family. I'm going to pitch in. And you see a lot of fathers, particularly Black fathers, Black fathers are more involved in their children's development, their education, their sports, their extracurricular activities. They're volunteering more. They're getting involved they're way out of the curve than other fathers, by the way. And the children are better for it. So I'm excited about the whole thing with modern. It's a new way of looking at how you run your business, new way of looking at economics and where you want to put your business, a new way of providing my services, on Zoom. It makes it so much easier for me to be a mom. I can come in my office, lock myself away, put on my sound machine so no one can hear me, and be able to do my business. And my kids can see me do this. So they see me working really hard. I'm parenting, but I'm also running my business, college professor. I hate to think, I don't consider myself high-powered, Boyce. Why did you call me high-powered? I don't consider myself high-powered.
You're high-powered because your energy level's high, and you every day, like she gets up and wants to be at the gym at 6 a.m, and and when she gets determined to do something, I don't even try to argue. And really with the word modern, I think modern is good as long as it's good, right? That's what I'm so because it's just like traditional. The word traditional is good unless it's not good. There's some traditions.
That's what I consider.
Right. So part of me is modern, part of me is traditional. Like traditional partly means like I don't necessarily buy into certain perspectives on masculinity that have been adopted in broader culture. I look at my father and grandfather, and the difference between me and them might be that some of the behavior that they might have engaged in that could be defined as toxic. I see it as being behavior that's inappropriate in certain contexts. There's a time and place for everything, right? So if you're trying to be the macho man, no, you don't have to be the macho man all the time, but sometimes you do. And I just think that in general, if that's what it requires, I think it requires an understanding of nuance and really what's going to work best for you in this world. Because I'm gonna tell you one thing, when you talk about the economic side, that's what I'm always thinking about. People better gain their own concept of family and find some healthy way to negotiate that, because you're now living in an American economy where it is really difficult for a person to economically survive on their own. It is really difficult. The lowest net worth in America, lowest median net worth in America is that of a single mother with kids. Also next to her is the single father who's paying child support on 2 or 3 kids. Also, anybody under the age of 35 is going into a world where it's extremely difficult for a single person to even buy a home. So whether family for you might mean a spouse. It might mean 2 really good friends that you can get along with, where y'all split the bills. It might mean multiple generations living under the same roof. It might mean imitating what some of the Mexican families do, where they put a whole bunch of people in one apartment. Not the stereotype, but some of them, we y'all know what it is. Right. You better figure it out. You better figure out how to do something related to group economics, or you will get slammed in this economy.
Yeah, so I like the breakdown of modern. That's why I ask it, because everyone's definition is different. So I'm always curious to see what you think about it. Okay, so on a lighter note, what right now is bringing you joy?
Alicia?
Joy. I think that's a really good question. I think, honestly, every day I get to get up in the morning and I get to do what I love and what I enjoy every single day. And honestly, and this hasn't always been like this in my life. Honestly, I get up every day and I'm married to a man that I absolutely love and admire, like for real. And it really brings me joy to see him go off and play with his trucks and then come grab a cookie and give me a kiss. Like,
I give her 20. I give her exactly 20 kisses every morning, don't I?
He does. He really does. And it is so great to finally have that type of relationship that I've always been looking for. I really get joy in watching my kids, grow and understand, and they work for us. They have worked for us. But there's one now,
Sometimes you gotta fire your kids, but hey.
Sometimes you gotta give it. But our 16-year-old, like, she works for us, and she's all into it, and she's got all these cool ideas. Like, that brings me joy. And she and her friends, they're sitting there talking about what they're gonna do when they get older and they can start their own business. Like, they're already thinking about this. Like, she's already talking about, oh, I want to get into real estate, and I want to be a nurse, and I want to be all of these cool things. It's great to see them develop, and it's so nice that they have biological father and they have a bonus dad that so supports them. Like, I will tell you, Boyce and their biological father, they are two real grown-up men. They do not act like little boys. They are so mature, and they are a great example of everything I would ever want in terms of the type of men that I would want to have my girls, and particularly my son, around. Like, I can really say those are the type of people I want to be around them. So, I mean, I really find I don't take it for granted at all. I sit back and I think about all of the privileges that I've been able to give my children that I did not have. I did not have. I had a silver spoon in a lot of different ways because my father was a college professor, and so I spent a lot of time on computers as a child in the 80s. Who does that? So I did have a lot of unique experiences, but at the same time, I'm able to offer and to provide and to do things with my kids that I wasn't able to do myself. I'm telling you, my 18-year-old self, I mean, that's such a fascinating question. I have no regrets at all. Absolutely none. I look back on it and I'm like, I really enjoyed myself. There was a time I lived in Chicago. I enjoyed myself. I did some enjoying. So I find joy in so much. That's a great question.
Good.
Thank you.
Oh, good. I love to hear those answers. So, Dr. Boyce, you want to take a stab at it?
If you think about joy in terms of happiness, I think about terms like joy, happiness, and contentment. I can definitely say I'm content with my life, and every day I'm content. Because I concluded a long time ago that the things that really give you that consistent happiness for me, I realized it was like the little things, like getting enough sleep, doing work that I enjoy, working around people I actually like, taking an afternoon nap, eating my favorite food. Like it's really it's the little stuff. It's not being famous or having money or buying a Lamborghini. Those things are temporary highs. They feel good, but that does not give you consistent, permanent happiness, in my view. Also, the more self-aware you are, the more you can sort of look at your own internal mechanics, and you can say, gosh, I'm feeling out of it today. I wonder what's going on. And then you can sort of dissect, diagnose, and figure out, okay, okay, maybe I need this. Maybe I'm just, sometimes like I'll be in a bad mood and I'll be like, you know what? I think I'm just grumpy. I need a nap. Like I learned that 80% of my problems can be solved with a good nap. so that, but like overall, I also saw something where a long time ago, they said they studied the happiest people in the world, and they said that happy people are happier because they're happier. That's it. They just, they make
the choice to be happy.
And they have a whole class at Yale on happiness, and it's the most popular class there. And I'm sitting here, I was laughing. I was like, do you have to take a class on that? But I get it, I had to think a lot about happiness and joy because I did not have a lot of joy, like coming up. I would sort of hope that I would stumble upon things that could give me joy, and it didn't work. And then I chose to become more intentional about finding my joy when I got to be 19 years old. I remember the exact moment when it happened. And once I became intentional about it and realized that it's not something that happens by accident, it's something that you seek, something you choose. At that point, it was off to the races. And I also feel the same way about things like confidence. I believe confidence isn't something you have, it's something you choose. So in certain situations when I'm not feeling confident, I'm like, no, I'm gonna choose to be courageous. I'm gonna choose to be confident, and that to me is my view on joy, happiness, and all those other things.
Love it. I love y'all's your description of it, because it really does speak to what you're doing what makes you happy right now. You're not at the point in your life where you're doing things that aren't bringing you joy, and I can tell in your relationship and how you choose what business endeavors you're going to go into, your gaps, all the things. So I love it. And we have to do that. It's definitely important, choosing to bring yourself joy. So well, thank y'all for doing the lightning round. It's always my favorite part to learn more about my guests. And so as we close out, I just want to first of all say thank you so much for creating space in your schedule and in your life to join me on the podcast, the Modern Mpreneur podcast, especially as my first couple, especially as such a powerhouse couple. I know you don't want to hear this, Dr. Alicia, but you are indeed a powerhouse couple. I'm so honored and privileged, and I learned a great deal from you guys. So thank you so much for that. Also, I want you to spend a few minutes just telling people how they can connect with you, and we'll add anything in our show notes. But feel free to share with the community how they can keep in touch with you.
Okay.
All right, I'll go first. The best way to get a hold of, keep in touch with me is on Instagram, Coaching with Dr. Alicia. I'm also on TikTok with Coaching with Dr. Alicia, but Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. And of course, my website, coachingwithdralicia.com. If anybody wants to reach out to me, that's the best way to get a hold of me, and I'll get back to you personally.
Okay.
She has a ton of resources on Coaching with Dr. Alicia for mompreneurs and families. You definitely want to check it out.
Yes, a lot of pre-recorded courses and workbooks to help with your relationships. And of course, I have the trauma piece there, of course, online to help you deal with your trauma and all of that. But you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com and you'll see everything on that website.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right, Dr. Boyce.
Yeah, my website's boycewatkins.com, just like Joyce with a B. And my latest book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, and all my books are there. My wife's books are actually on my website too at drboycebooks.com. So drboycebooks.com is a good way to check out some of the stuff we got going on.
Awesome. We'll put those in the show notes. Anything else you guys want to add? I do appreciate y'all coming. I want to just